Hey, Bastich B here for 64K. Welcome to my latest vlog. This is vlog number 41. This is not only a vlog, a channel update, but this is also a Q&A.
Welcome to 64K. Hosted by Bastich B.
And welcome back. So in these vlogs I usually give some channel updates and then we go into a Q&A. I haven't done one of these in a good couple months, probably since December of 2022, so it's been a good few months. I've got everything written down here. I'll be referencing this because these are done. This is more of just me talking to you on the camera. This isn't anything scripted like every other video on my channel. So let's first go over a few just simple channel updates. The first thing I want to say is welcome to all the new subscribers, especially over the last week. I've had like thousands of new subscribers, over 2,000 at this point, which is amazing. I'll get onto how that happened shortly, but first I just want to welcome everybody to this channel, 64K. It's dedicated to the Commodore 64 and all other retro gaming goodness. You're not only getting C64 stuff, but you're getting a lot of other stuff. I try to keep it 50-50 all the time. Commodore 64 is my favorite computer of all time, so I dedicate 50% of the content to that and 50% to pretty much everything else I like. That goes from DOS era gaming, like old PC games, point-and-click adventures and all that kind of stuff, right up to arcade games, old consoles, Mega Drive, Sega CD, just things I love. So definitely explore the channel. There are tons and tons of different series to check out. The main YouTube page, you're only allowed to have, I think, about 8 or 9 different playlists of your videos. So there's a lot on that first page you can browse through and check out, but just bear in mind at the bottom there's more playlists with subsets of tons and tons of videos. So there's a lot to explore. There's over 700 videos up so far, so please take your time and enjoy. I'm sure there's something else you'll like. If you like the arcade video, then you'll definitely find other stuff you'll enjoy. This channel is about positivity. It's about celebrating retro games and celebrating nostalgia and trying to archive these games in some sort of meaningful way with information that people can actually see in the future. So that's what the whole goal of this channel is. This channel is not about negativity. You're not going to find any videos that are 10 games I hate on this system or games I despise, any of that kind of nonsense. I honestly haven't got time for that kind of thing. I'm just exploring the games that I love and the games that I really enjoy and kind of sharing it with you. So that's what this channel is all about. And the final note about this channel for everybody new that's joined, this is not a drama channel. I'm not gonna be dissing people on this channel. I don't do that kind of thing. I don't do videos that are related to whatever is trending on YouTube just to get views, or response videos to get views on people that have got views, a lot of views, doing a response, all that kind of nonsense. You're not gonna get clickbait titles either. The titles of the video are exactly what you're getting. I don't want to con you into clicking on a video just to get one simple view and then you realize it's not what you think and you turn it off. Pointless to not only you, but it's pointless to me. So you're not going to get clickbait titles like this. So if you see a title, then that's exactly what you're going to be getting. And the next little channel update is the release of the Arcade's Universal Language 1970 to 1999 arcade video, the director's cut. This was a long time coming. I've made all 3 of those episodes, the 70s, 80s, and 90s. I finally combined them. I added a lot more reviews and a lot more extra content in there, re-edited a whole bunch of things, changed the music in certain sections, redid all my hosting stuff for the beginnings and ends, all that kind of stuff. It's like a big old remix. This is actually how I wanted this video to be represented right from the beginning, but just due to making something that's 10.5 hours long, it took like over a year to make, and I was making hundreds of other videos anyway, so it wasn't like I was working on that all the time. But over the course of a year I managed to make that. And it was just me making it, besides my guests who helped out with answering questions that I sent them, which I appreciate. Thank you everybody that participated in that. So the channel, once that video, as of making this, came out about a week ago, and the channel was at about 11,000 subscribers. It's now over 13,000 subscribers, so it's a massive jump, especially for a small channel like this. And this video is only coming out 5 days after I'm shooting it right now, so who knows what it's going to be when this video actually comes out, so be interesting. But regardless, it's I just want to thank everybody again who's joined from seeing that video. Thank you very much for watching it. I know a lot of people said it's mental to make something that long, nobody's going to watch it. I never felt that way. I always felt that people would be interested in watching something in a long form style, especially on something that deserves to have like real time dedicated to it. I just couldn't imagine making a video about arcade history and making it an hour and a half. You just wouldn't be able to cover the games. For me, the games are what makes, you know, a documentary, or at least the games are the thing that's important. That's what I'm trying to say here. You know, if you're going to make a documentary about something, you've got to cover the games. You can't just touch on a few little games here and there and then give some history of the arcade. That's all well and good, and I'm not dissing any other ones that have come out. It's just it's never satisfying, especially for me. I just had to like do as many games as I could that I liked, and in some sort of reasonable fashion, even though it's slightly unreasonable, and just, you know, try to give it as much as I could. So that's all that video is about. If you enjoyed it, thank you very much for checking it out. And one final note here before we get on to the Q&A is I'm going to be going to England in a few months' time, the UK, and I'm going to be shooting a good couple of videos there. I really don't want to say what they are yet. If you watch the channel closely and things, you might be able to figure it out. But anyway, there's going to be at least 3 or 4, probably 3 videos made in the UK, and it's going to be super fun. They're going to be some really cool ones, some really interesting retro gaming related videos. Can't wait for you to see those. That'll be in like summertime, so you can look forward to those in like probably like late June or July, something like that. There's going to be like a trilogy of those kinds of videos. Having said that, anybody that lives in the UK and England, please, if you can suggest any retro gaming stores to check out, and I'm talking about the London area and surrounding. I'm going to be going to a few other areas outside of London, but if you have any suggestions, or you guys in the UK that watch this channel, any suggestions for retro gaming stores in the London surrounding area at least, just please leave them in the comments and that. I really want to check them out. I'm talking about retro gaming stores, especially ones that have like Commodore 64 stuff and that. That's what I'm really looking for if I have the opportunity to check that out. Over here in Canada, Commodore 64 stuff is just like almost non-existent. You can't find it. I have to like import C64 games if I want to get originals, and I can't really afford that anymore, so I haven't bought any Commodore games in a long time, more than a year, any originals anyway. So I'm always want to like add a few to my collection. So if you know any stores that have got like really old stuff, then that will be appreciated. Please leave it in the comment and I'll check it out, and thank you. And so I'm just getting comfortable here. Now it's time for the Q&A. I posted this on all my social media, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, everything, and just asked if you guys want to ask any questions of the channel or me, and I got a whole lot of responses. I hope I got all of them here. I might have missed 1 or 2. If I did, I apologize. I was writing them down as much as I can. I've got over 13. There's 14 here, and I'm going to answer all of them now. It's a pretty varied mix of questions, yeah, which is cool, which is what I like. It's what the channel's all about, variety. So this is pretty cool. Anyway, so let's kick it off with 2 questions actually, and I'm going to allow 2 questions from this person because they are a long-time subscriber and viewer, and they've been commenting for years, and I really do appreciate that a lot. And this is from Denny. I'm going to put everybody's name at the bottom here so you get to see it. And Denny asked 2 questions, and the first one is, any point in the future that would signal the end of making videos on retro games as a whole? So let me just answer that one first. I honestly can't see a time when I'm gonna be stopping making videos about retro games, simply because this channel is pretty diverse. I've got so many games to cover and subjects that I could make. I've got literally lists and lists of videos, ideas, and they've all been cataloged. I've got a book, so I've got hundreds. And these are just videos that I want to make. I'll never get to make all of them. I know that. It's unrealistic. But I've got so much material. I'll never basically run out. And even if you're focusing on just one system, it'll be really hard to run out of material if you're covering a system properly. Unless it's got like 5 games on it or something. But, generally speaking, the Commodore 64, I feel like I've just scratched the surface of it, even though I've done hundreds and hundreds of videos. Arcades, there's so much more to discover. There's hundreds of arcades I could still do videos on and expand things. Never mind consoles that I love. So I don't think that'll ever come to pass. And Denny's second question here is, Bite Size Retro and Zine Files are 2 of my personal favorite series of yours. Are there any plans to shoot any more videos for this series or these series? So yeah, definitely. These 2 series, in case you're not aware, Bite Size Retro is the way I take like a game and do 30 to 40 seconds of it. I cut in as much variety of footage as I possibly can so you can get a quick look at a game very quickly with some information at the end. So I usually have 40 games in each episode. So like you can watch, it's like half an hour and you can see 40 games very quickly. And it's just a quick way of checking out a bunch of stuff that you may not know. I think it's a pretty cool series. I've actually done 10 mini videos already for a new episode. I've still got another 30 to do, so it's still a while. I keep on getting sidetracked making that video though, so I don't know when another episode of that's going to come out, but I'll try to put it higher on the list. So maybe within the next few months, hopefully we'll have another episode of that. And the other one is a series called Zine Files. I haven't done an episode of this for more than a year. I don't even know when I did the last one, and it's a series about looking through old magazines, computer game magazines or console game magazines, and going through page by page and talking about it. It's a very it's kind of like different from any other video I kind of do. It's very hard to make though, and it's very painful. It's very hard to edit. It's tedious. It takes a long time. I have to like really get a lot of energy to make one of those videos. It's hard to make, so that's why there hasn't been one in a really long time. There's 7 episodes I think out already, so if that even sounds remotely interesting, please check that out. But I don't know when there will be another episode, honestly, but there definitely will be. I do enjoy that series. It just takes a lot of energy to make an episode. And the second question is from Daz. This is my podcasting partner on the Hands On Gaming podcast. Look out for it soon. There's going to be a new episode uploaded, so look out for that. Anyway, he asked, if you could only play games from 2 Commodore 64 game publishers, what would they be? Whew. And he chose Ocean Software and System 3. Very good choices. I'm gonna I'll cheat and choose one of his because that is one of my favorite Commodore 64 companies. I'll definitely say System 3 is one of them. My favorite game of all time is The Last Ninja, and every single game that System 3 put out on the Commodore 64, I can't think of a bad one, are gold. So it would definitely have to be System 3. The second choice though is super difficult because I like a lot of variety when I play games. So choosing a second one, I don't know. I love Cinemaware. Although they only put out a handful of C64 games, every one of them is excellent. And I really love Microprose. I love simulation games, especially submarine and flight sims. But Epic's made so much good stuff. They're also pretty varied. And it's hard. It's really hard to choose the second one. But I would have to go with something that I never thought I would choose. I would have to say Electronic Arts. Simply because in the 80s to the early 90s, at least on computers, Electronic Arts were really inventive. They took risks. They made games that are pretty unorthodox. They weren't shy to experiment. They would jump genres. They didn't stick to one genre either. They made games in all genres and they did them well. I would choose Electronic Arts as the second one just because of their excellent RPGs that they published. There's so many I absolutely love and I could sink so much time into them, and just all the other weird games that they made. So I would have to say System 3 and Electronic Arts, but if you ask me this on another day, I might say something else, but System 3 will definitely be one of them. And this next question is from Adam. He does the Commodore Chronicles podcast. You should go check that out. And he asked, if you were tasked to go back in time in the past and join an engineering team of one of the 8-bit consoles or computers with the knowledge you have now, which team would you choose and what influence would you have on it? So this is a pretty interesting question. And well, I would obviously join Team Commodore, but going back in time, you know what? Honestly, if I was going back in time to join one of these teams on the making of like a computer or a console, I would not interfere with anything that they're doing because I don't want to ruin my game coming back to the future and half the games that I love have disappeared. I think that would be a bad idea to interfere with that kind of thing. Although, what I would like to do is go back in time with say modern Commodore 64 games and show it to really influential programmers back then, show them what actually can be done with the exact same system that they were working on with all the same parameters, and just show them this is what you can actually achieve out of this thing if you know all these other techniques. I would love to do that and then just jump back to the future and see what had changed, just for pure curiosity's sake. Imagine what Commodore 64 games would look like if I took something like a Pig Quest or Sam's Journey, traveled back in time and showed some of the guys back then in say 1984 those games, and I wonder what the library would look like. You could do that for a lot of other consoles too, consoles and computers, think of any modern game and do that. That would be very interesting. So that would be fun to do, but I would never want to interfere with the actual hardware. I think these things were built with, what they had available, and I think exploiting them now with modern techniques is extremely fascinating. Seeing modern games come out based on old technology from the 80s and how well they can actually make them if you can push these systems to the limit. So I would definitely leave the systems the same, but a very cool question anyway. Okay, so the next question is from John Ebbs, also a long-time commenter and watcher. He asked, the Computer Warrior in Eagle comic had me hooked every Thursday after school. Why has this not been brought back over the years? It would be fantastic. Okay, so for everybody that didn't grow up in the UK, for example, you probably don't know what the hell he's talking about. But anyway, so Eagle, here, this is actually an annual. They came in, Eagle was published weekly. It was like a comic book, like an anthology kind of thing, where it will have a bunch of stories all aimed at dudes, so adventure kind of stuff and that kind of thing. Anyway, so there was one called one strip that was in each weekly publication. It was called The Computer Warrior. Now I vaguely remember this. I don't remember it very well, but John actually mentioned this before in a comment, and it sparked my memory, and I actually remember this. I had actually completely forgotten that that strip even existed. When I think of Eagle, I always think of Dan Dare, this character, which is one of my favorite characters. So I always associate that with Eagle, but there were a lot of other cool characters in there. Anyway, so this Computer Warrior strip was about a dude, like a regular guy, like a kid like us in the 80s, who got sucked into like into video games, and he had to play them out in like reality. So he was playing like the real life version of a game. I remember one specifically was a game called Desert Fox, which is one of my favorite tank simulator kind of games, which is part strategy, part tank simulator. It's a weird game. It's very cool. Anyway, I remember this one strip where he was in that game and he had to drive a real tank and fight in World War II. Very intense. So he basically says, why hasn't this been brought back in any sort of way? Personally, the way I feel about it is that it shouldn't be brought back in any sort of way. I would prefer it just to be left alone. I think it's just too easy for like reboots and rehashes of things to happen all the time, and they never, let's be honest, they never as satisfying as the originals. Very, very rarely is something done well that it actually exceeds the original, or is at least on par. The only thing I can think of recently is Top Gun Maverick, which is an absolutely awesome movie. It's actually better than the original, but that is like so few and far between. It's ridiculous. 99% of it usually ends up being a piece of trash. So I think the Computer Warrior can stay in our memories as what it was. I don't think it needs to be brought back. I think it was a cool idea. It was basically Tron in comic book form. And thanks again for reminding me about that. It was such a cool series. If anybody's interested, you could check out old issues of Eagle. Even Eagle annuals sometimes have them, and you can check out the Computer Warrior. And this next question is from Retro B8. He asks, hi Bastich, I've been a subscriber for years. Love your videos, and definitely your channel inspired me to create my own. Wow, thank you. I don't even know what to say about that. That's awesome. My question is, do you think the C64 has been pushed to its absolute limit yet? I think with Sam's Journey, it's possibly a yes, but year on year, we are blessed with fantastic homebrews. So, with the recent games that have come out, you would say like, yeah, it has been pushed to the limit, but I'm going to say no. I know that's ridiculous, especially based on recent games that have come out, because, you can push a system to the limit in lots of different areas. So is it pushed to the limit to the max that it can be on every single thing? I don't think any game can really push the limits of every single aspect of a game. You know what I mean? Like, you can have really great music, really great graphics, and really great gameplay, but can all those be excellent all at the same time, plus everything else? Very, very rare. But I mean, so you can push it in very, very different ways. So I think we'll never really ever see the limits of the system, really, because a lot of things have to be met for that to happen. I think recently the limits have been pushed really high. But people are always figuring out new techniques. It's weird. The C64 scene is pretty impressive, and I'd have to say that on a lot of other systems and consoles as well. I've played games recently on other systems that are just mind-blowing. I've never thought that was possible to see that kind of thing. So it's interesting, but I don't think the C64 has been pushed to the limit yet. I think that limit just varies on how you perceive a game. So it's a hard question to answer, but I think there's going to be even more impressive stuff in the future. And the next question is from Steve Lear. He asks, in the UK we had Playground, Computer Wars, C64 and Spectrum, which then led on to the Amiga and the Atari ST. What was your experience of growing up with this? Okay, so I grew up in South Africa, so we never had those kind of playground wars, simply because the Spectrum didn't exist in South Africa. I saw one Spectrum in my entire life. Actually, I've only ever seen one Spectrum in my entire life, because I lived in South Africa and then I came to Canada. Spectrum does not exist in Canada or even like North America in general. It's like a non-existent computer. So, that kind of mentality of kids fighting on the playground never existed for me. Commodores were all over South Africa. I knew lots of people that had a Commodore computer, so that was a pretty popular system. So, but I used to read all the UK magazines, whether they were console or computer magazines. Every month I would buy them. So, reading about the Spectrum versus Commodore kind of battles that would have kind of became ingrained in my head. So I kind of did experience it in that sort of way, obviously. So it's funny. Obviously, I would always be Team Commodore, even though I had actually literally never played a Spectrum game. So that was always funny, but you always support what you have and what you like, of course. And then it moved on to the Amiga and the Atari ST. Again, the Amiga, I knew quite a few people in South Africa that had Amigas, and you could get the software pretty easily. So that was also another system that was more common. The Atari ST, again, was almost non-existent in South Africa. I don't think I ever saw one. Nobody I knew ever had one. Never seen one. I've only seen one recently at a convention. So there's like certain systems that were just non-existent in my country of origin. So But that was pretty hilarious. I think that kind of like those kind of wars still battle on today. You could, like Xbox versus PlayStation. It's all totally pointless anyway, because, it's especially pointless now because 90% of the games come out on both systems. So there's nothing to really fight about. If you want to fight about frame rate and nitty-pitty things like that, which I think is like pointless, whatever, just enjoy the games, dudes. Like, no need to fight about it. But back in the day there was a lot more differences between systems. There were a lot more exclusive games for certain systems. It was a lot more like that kind of way, lot more locked off, if you know what I mean. So there was like something worth fighting about, like I had this game, you had that game, so it's a lot more fun. Nowadays it's totally pointless. But yeah, I do remember that, and I experienced it through magazines basically. And this next question is from Brian Thomas. He always comments on Twitter. Hey Brian. And he asked, since you told the story about the guy you beat at Street Fighter 2 back in the 90s arcade language video, I want to hear another one that stuck with you the most involving a fighting game. Yeah, so I told a story in the 90s section of the Arcade's Universal Language about beating this dude, and down at my local cafe, and the guy just kind of disappeared. I never ever saw him ever again. Like, in reality, it's like super weird. I think it was The Shame or something. I don't know. It's funny. I don't even know what to say about it. Hopefully that dude's okay. Anyway, so he's asking if I have any other crazy, like, kind of stories about fighting games stories. I do have another one that's based in the arcades, and it's also based on a fighting game. We used to go down the coast of South Africa camping all the time, and at each one of these campgrounds there was like a rec room, and the rec rooms would have arcades and a good old TV with like cartoons playing. This is for us kids. So these caravan parks where we used to stay was always on the beachfront. Yeah, so you got to have a weekend at the beach basically, and then run into the rec room and play arcades, obviously. So I would hit up the arcades and hit up the beach, back and forth. Anyway, there was this one that had a whole bunch of games. I remember it had Zippy Race, and it had Karate Champ. That's the versus game by Daddy East. And I remember playing Karate Champ, and I was playing it by myself. It's used two controllers to control that game. It's super weird. This was the versus version, the international one, so it had 4 controllers on it. And most arcades have like kind of a slanted angle where you can use the controllers. This one was kind of just built straight out and down, so it was flat, a little bit unorthodox. Anyway, so I was playing, and when you used to play arcades back in the day, you used to put your quarter or 20-cent piece, is what we used to use in South Africa, but you used to put your quarter on the edge of the screen, but there was nowhere else to put it. And I put it there, even though I could have put it on the flat thing because it was different. I put it on the edge of the screen. That's like indicated that you're going to play the game again if you die. But if it was a versus game, then somebody would inevitably join. And this other guy decided to join. He was at least 4 or 5 years older than me. He was probably like 12 or 13. I was like probably like 9 or 10 when I was playing this. And he comes walking in there. He had a can of Coke open, took a sip, and put his can of Coke like right in the middle of all the controllers, which was kind of annoying because I was like almost hitting it. I couldn't move properly. Anyway, he puts his can of Coke there, and he puts in his money, and he starts playing. And we go into verses. We got a verse, okay? So anyway, playing, and I beat the guy, and he was not happy about that. He accused me of cheating, which is a ridiculous thing to accuse somebody of in an arcade. You can't cheat. It just is what it is. If you die, it's your fault. Anyway, so I beat this dude. And what he did was he looks at me afterwards and he goes over and he takes my credit and he puts it in because it's my fault that I killed him, basically. So he takes my money and puts it in so he can verse me again. And I look at him and I'm like, what the heck, dude? Like, you can't take my money. I was going to play Zippy Race after this. And he's just like shrugs his shoulders like he couldn't care less. And I was like, seriously? So what I did was, I wouldn't suggest doing this to anybody, but I was a kid, I was a maniac, and I was really upset about it, that he took my money, because, man, I love Zippy Race. Anyway, so I grabbed his Coke, and I ran out of the arcade, and he was like, what the hell? And I carried on running, and as I was running, I hit onto the beachfront, and I started pouring his Coke out. As I was running the whole thing, I emptied it, and he was running after me as fast as he could, and I threw the can over my shoulder, and I just carried on running. I ran so fast. I've never run so fast in my life. I managed to make it, like, I got so far ahead of him. I think he was tired because, running on the beach is tiring, and my little legs was just taking me like a maniac, and I managed to go around the corner really quickly. I think I lost him, and I went all the way back to the caravan and hid out for like a couple hours. And anyway, so yeah, I dissed that dude. Whoever you are, you know who you are. Maybe you do, maybe you remember that. I apologize, I didn't mean to do that, but you took my 20 cents, dude. I was gonna play Zippy Race, so I think you deserved it anyway. And the next question's from John Henderson. He asks, which games, new or old, push the limits of the C64 in your opinion? Okay, so this is a little bit similar to a previous question, so I'm going to be super brief here. Newer wise, A Pig's Quest and Sam's Journey both push the limits of the C64 immensely. A lot of the newer games do, so check out the new C64 scene. There's so many examples, especially games that are physically published. Those are the ones that seem to have the people behind it, at least, have put a super amount of effort to really try to push the system to the limit. So check out any of those. Bear in mind, you can get digital versions of those. You don't have to buy physical copies. I don't have the money to buy physical copies of those. I only have digital versions of modern games. So you can check those out. Any of my recent Commodore 64 lists on newer games are worth looking at. Those things really do push the limits. As far as old games go, very hard to say because of looking at new games, you get to see where the real limit actually was. So it's kind of hard, but I always felt, at least back in the day when I was playing C64 games for the first time, a game series that pushed the limits of the system, I felt in a lot of different ways, was the Last Ninja series. 1, 2, and even 3, even though 3 isn't as good as 1 and 2. In a lot of ways, it really pushed the limits in certain aspects, especially graphics-wise. So those games I always felt pushed the limits. They had sound, they had excellent sound, they had excellent graphics, and really good gameplay. They really were a step above everything else. Most games by System 3, though, you could say that. But yeah, those are the ones that really stick out to me personally anyway. Okay, so the next question is from TD Bauer. He asks, okay, more of a request. Have you ever thought about putting timestamps on your longer videos, like the arcade history videos, maybe timestamping it by the years? I've been trying to go back and find mentions of arcade games in those videos. Awesome content, love your entire channel. Even the stuff I wasn't interested in, like the console games, I find very interesting. So first up, thank you for checking out the other videos, especially if you're the ones you maybe thought you weren't going to be interested in, and then you obviously find them interesting and enjoy them. Encourage anybody just to explore the channel, obviously. Even if it's something you think you may not enjoy, just check out the video. You might actually find it enjoyable. Anyway, so yeah, this has already been implemented. Like I mentioned earlier, the arcade's director's cut. I've put timestamps on all the years, and so you can easily jump to whatever year you want. I know it's a super long video, and so now you've got the choice to jump to 1985 if you want. If you know when a game came out, which is not very hard to find out, you just bring up your cell phone and type in Street Fighter 2 and you'll find out it came out in 1991, so you can jump straight there if that's a game that interests you, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I have put timestamps on that video. Especially going forward, I will put timestamps on any video that's over an hour long. Anything under an hour, I'm not going to do that because I feel like that's a one sitting watch. Even though I personally don't have time to watch anything more than 15 minutes, that's just me. And I just don't have time. But generally speaking, any video, like I said, that goes over an hour from now on will have timestamps, so you can just find things a little bit easier. Okay, so on to question number 12. We're almost at the end. This is from DK. He asks, more opening the shinies and looting booty, please. Great content across all your videos. Thank you for all your hard work. Much appreciated. Thank you very much for saying that. So he's talking about two series I haven't done videos on in a while. Well, one of them I have, but two series. One is called Opening the Shinies. I had to remember what that was called because I haven't done a video on it in about 2 years. So both of these series are ones that I can't actually plan to make. I know this sounds weird. They kind of just happen when they happen. So for example, Opening the Shinies is just unboxing videos. I haven't done one of those in a very long time, simply because I don't have the money to buy a box of games. So that is the long and short of that story. I would love to buy a box of Commodore 64 games right now, but I can't. And I haven't been able to for quite a while. So that's why that series hasn't continued. Maybe one day in the future when I actually have some money, I can buy a box of Commodore 64 games and do another episode. But until that happens, it's out of my control. There's nothing I can do about it. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. As far as the other one, it's called Looting Booty. That is my thrifting series where I go thrifting for retro games and just cool pop culture, nostalgia stuff. And that series hasn't had an episode in a few months, but there is one coming out next week, next Friday. So if you're watching this on Friday, next Friday is when it's coming out. I think it's episode number 19. Lots of cool pickups in that one. If you haven't seen this series, you should definitely check it out if you like thrifting videos. Don't check out the first few episodes. They're probably super cringy. I made them when I first started the channel. Maybe just start with episode 18 and work your way backwards if you're interested in thrifting videos. They also have other elements to them, like there's usually an actual goal to the thrift. What I mean is I'm going to a certain location, a specific location, and I show you all the stuff I've thrifted over the months. So it's a bit of a combination of a place and thrifting to give it like some sort of variety, make it a little bit different than your usual thing that you see. But anyway, check that out. It's called Looting Booty. New episode next week, Friday. And this next question is from Gideon Marcus. He asked, any chance of a new One Man and His Machine documentary? So this is another series that I do. Like I said, I do a lot of series, and you just explore the channel, you'll find lots of cool stuff. Anyway, this series is called One Man and His Machine. It's basically like profiles on programmers, like really prolific programmers in their kind of genre, and I kind of basically talk a bit about them and their history, and then we dive through all their games. in a kind of a little bit more of a rapid fashion. It's not a long form documentary series. Each episode is anywhere from 10 to half an hour, 10 minutes to half an hour, that kind of thing. But you get a good sense of who this programmer is and what he accomplished and the games he made. I really enjoy that series. I haven't made one in a very, very long time. I know that. I've got a bucket list of a bunch of dudes I want to really cover in the future. I keep on going back and forth who I want to do, but yeah, it's really just time, you know. If I wasn't working a regular job and this YouTube thing was my only job, I would be able to make all these things very easily, because I'd have basically infinite time to just work on them. And that's the only thing that's holding me back from making certain episodes of certain series is time. I have to be very, very, I have to use it to the absolute max, you know, in order to get these things made, because it is what it is. But I hope to do one in the future. We just have to wait and see what that's going to be. And the last one, it's more of a statement from a guy called Hamid. He comments on this channel all the time, so I'm just going to put it in here. He just states that I'd get the 50 disc plus Blu-ray collection of every Bastich B 64 episode ever made. That's pretty funny. I wonder how many discs it would take to put every single episode of this channel on. It would be pretty cool to see that. I remember when I used to go to conventions, when I first started to go to conventions, and this is not that long ago, because there were no conventions in South Africa for like video games or anything cool. But when I came to Canada, I didn't really take advantage of it in the beginning because I was trying to adjust to a new country. It's very confusing. But probably like just over a decade ago, 2010, 11, that time, I started to go to conventions for the first time. And sometimes I would see like a YouTube guy there with all his episodes put onto DVDs and that kind of thing, and he was selling them. I thought that was really funny. I thought it was a cool idea, because YouTube was still kind of new then. And I think the limit on the videos were like 10 minutes or something. So you were really limited as to what you could upload. Don't quote me on when that changed to, I know the time changed. It was probably already changed then. But anyway, this guy had discs of all his episodes by his series. I thought that was funny, but Blu-ray you can fit so much more on. It would be kind of cool to see that, but anyway, I don't have the technology to do that. It would be fun to see. Anyway, I do appreciate you watching anyway. And that's it. That's all the questions. If I didn't miss any, I do apologize. There was one question posed by somebody. I'm not going to say your name. I couldn't answer it. Actually, there were two. The one I already contacted you, outside of this video and said why I wasn't going to answer it. It's just a drama-related issue. I don't want to get involved with anything like that on this channel. And the other one, I actually didn't understand what you were actually asking me. It was just worded very strangely. Maybe it's, I'm not saying anything. Maybe English isn't your first language, or maybe I just didn't understand what you were actually trying to imply or ask me, so I couldn't answer that. I wouldn't be able to answer it. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, another vlog will be up in a few more months' time. I'll obviously open that up as well to Q&A, so there's always opportunities to ask and also leave comments. I read all the comments. I'm still keeping up with it, even though the channel's creeping up there. The comments are getting more and more. I always comment on your, at least leave some sort of response to whatever you have to say about the videos, good or bad. But I'm still keeping up with that, so you can check it out that way. Anyway, I just want to say thank you for watching. This video has probably been way too long and you've probably fallen asleep or slipped into a coma. I understand that. It's a lot of blabbing, but that's what this vlogs are about. Anyway, hopefully I've answered your questions. Thanks for joining me, Bastich B at 64K. I hope you had a good time. And if you can please like and subscribe, that'll be greatly appreciated. I'll see you next time. Cheers.